The world got a pretty good look at a future star, and we undoubtedly have seen that happen again this weekend. Brody, thanks for the time. Great to have you on, and I guess when the Manning camp occurs, you know that you know what's around the corner. How are you? And tell us all about it.
Yeah, thanks for having me as always, Paul. Doing well. Yeah, I think one of the more fascinating things is just that concept of being at the Manning Passing Academy, and pretty much both of Joe Burrow's supposed replacements are now at different schools, sitting across from each other at the interview room, and kind of in fascinating situations, both not even sure they're starting at those other schools. You know, Miles Brennan talked pretty openly to us about, and he's talked about it before, but coming back to LSU for a sixth year, and how, quite frankly, he chose coming back into a situation that there is, he could have taken other jobs and probably started somewhere. He's come back to LSU to decent chance not win that job. You never know. It's a three-man competition right now. But he kind of said, I'm a fighter. I'm not going to choose the easy path and things like that. And it really does seem like it is a pretty tight competition with really no major indication which way it's going. Well, on the other hand, you have Max Johnson, at Texas A&M talking about making a business decision. Well, one could argue Miles Brennan made the opposite of a business decision. Pretty much taking a risky choice that was more emotional.
Yeah, and Brody, this is a really competitive race. Miles Brennan how many times has he won this job only to get hurt and see it slip away? But there's another combatant from Arizona State who figures large into this as well, does he not?
Absolutely, yeah. Jaden Daniels obviously adds something that no one else in that room really has. He is I think it's fair to say, an elite runner. He does have that ability running around the pocket, making plays that very few have, and he's the only one who can really say he's a 3-year starter. And granted, not all of it went well. There's a lot in his last years at Arizona State you can point to and criticize. And even watching practice, watching the spring game, and talking to people around LSU, they tell you, some of his passing chops aren't quite there yet. His accuracy's not quite there. And the real wrinkle that really made this even more fascinating all spring is that redshirt freshman Garrett Nussmeier, I think most would tell you, maybe had the best spring of any of them. And that doesn't mean I think he's the favorite, but he wowed a lot of people this spring. He has probably the livest arm of them, and he brings some playmaking abilities with his feet. And, he has to work on his decision-making. He's young, sure, but this is a wild competition because it's going to tell us a lot about Brian Kelly, right? Because you're going to find out, is he going to choose maybe the safest option in the sixth-year senior in Brennan, who makes the right decisions? You're going to choose the mobile one, in Daniels, who maybe neutralizes, some of those O-line issues and can make plays? Or do you go Nussmeier, who maybe has the most upside and maybe is more of a guy for the future but might come with some risk? It's going to tell us a lot.
Yeah, and Brody, it's not like you're playing some directional school in the opener that you're going to win 55-7 regardless. It's a huge game against a team that nobody knows very much about, and I'm talking about Florida State in New Orleans on Labor Day weekend. So when does this decision need to be made? I'm not talking about what Brian Kelly is saying, but you know the lay of the land. You just can't wait till the day before.
Absolutely. I think they would like to get a sense. I think they're still going into fall camp pretty unclear, or at least very, not decided. And I think they would like to make a decision sooner than later. I don't think they'd like to let this drag out till, going back to 2018 when Burrow didn't get the job until the Monday of the Miami game. But it's tough because I think there's a lot going on, right? There is the dynamics of Jaden Daniels being this high-profile transfer who came here when he probably could have gone other places. Do you maybe give him that job, but maybe his leash is shorter? And Brennan coming out of the portal for his sixth year. There's all these elements that make you almost wonder if this does get dragged out, just because, there's a lot on the line here and a lot of personalities at play. So I know talking to some people in that offensive staff, they would like it decided sooner than later. Brian Kelly is kind of more, politicking that he probably has to do in that situation, so it might get dragged out.
Brody Miller with us. Brody, beyond the quarterback position, which is kind of a silly statement to make, but give us the outlook and the makeup of the rest of the team.
The way I keep putting it is it's going to be a team that has on the top of the roster, right, those top 10, 12 guys, those top 10, 12 are as good as most teams you're going to find. They have 4 or 5 guys who, if things clicked right, could be first-round talents. They have some stars there, whether it be, the defensive line is as good as any in the SEC with Mason Smith, Ollie Gay, and B.J. Ojolari and Jaquelin Roy. That's 4 guys that could be first- or second-round picks right there. The receiver room is with Keyshawn Butte and a group of sophomores that are loaded, as good as most receiver rooms. So that top's really good. The problem is they have, infrastructural holes. They have weaknesses in the secondary and the offensive line. Any staff member there will tell you the depth is just not where they want it. So I think what that tends to lead to is a thing where on the right night, which I think you've kind of seen the last 2 years, right? On the right night, they can beat anyone. Absolutely. I think if things click with that talent they have at the top, they can beat an A&M. They can beat a Florida and an Auburn. The problem is when you have some of these depth issues, you also see yourself slip to a Mississippi State or to a Tennessee. I think that's kind of the season I think a lot of people are preparing for, where it might just be a little volatile because their strengths, receiver, D-line, a few others, are elite, but their weaknesses, O-line, secondary, are major. So I keep kind of pinning it as an 8-9 win season with some big wins and some tough losses.
What is the feeling about Brian Kelly now that the dust has settled and seemingly all the YouTube videos have gone away? When I saw him in Destin, he seemed pretty relaxed. Now, again, that could have been a show. It could have been the beach, too. But what has it been like to be around?
Yeah, I think the main sense right now that we're about 7 months in, and it's tricky. I know I've said some of this to you before. I do think there's a feeling that he is fixing a lot of the infrastructural stuff really well. I do think he's changing the culture. Accountability has been this overused buzzword, but it was a problem under Orgeron, and I think they have some really good systems in place to improve that accountability. From the staff down to a leadership council of players, I think a lot's changing. You've already seen some guys leave the team who had discipline issues. But I think the thing that's still up in the air is just going to be the recruiting thing, and that's not a dig or a compliment. It's just kind of in wait-and-see mode.